Welcome to What's Trending with Tire Review. I'm Maddie Weiner, and today I'm joined on the podcast by Ann Evans. Ann is a well-known leader and innovator in the global tire and waste industry. In her over 30 years in private industry, she was the third-generation owner in her family's Middletown, Connecticut tire business and expanded it from a Main Street retailer to a global tire recycler. Ann left the global tire and waste industry in 2007 to take an appointment as a director within the U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration. She intended this to be a 1 or 2 year appointment, yet it turned into 13 years focusing on U.S. exports of aerospace, defense, and space supply chain products. During her time, Ann developed and led many groundbreaking programs and export initiatives, which included leading supply chain meetings at the White House and being honored in the U.S. Congress in her support of small businesses. Ann has a myriad of accolades for her work in sustainability, trade, and the tire industry. In 2003, she was awarded the Tire Industry Association's Tire Industry Pioneer Award for her innovation and leadership in waste tire recovery. In 2020, she was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Hartford Business Journal. Last December, Ann returned to the private sector and currently runs Universal Strategies Limited, a consulting company she founded that specializes in ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and trade and investment. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maddie. It's wonderful to be here, and it's wonderful to be talking tires again.
Awesome. I'm excited too. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Well, so Ann, from looking at your career, it's obvious you have a passion for how small businesses can cope and prosper when faced with these challenging directives and regulations that are being mandated by, either the government or suppliers and customers. One of those directives that's becoming important in the tire industry is ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance. So can you explain what this means for tire manufacturers?
Well, the tire manufacturers were really facing it early because it was investor driven. It's all about investment, a socially conscious investment. But within a couple years, it has become something that has captured everything they do. And if you go on their websites, if you go on Michelin's website, they have pages of how they deal with ESG, how they work with the communities, same with Bridgestone, same with Goodyear. So it's something that's now in every day of every big company's life, but it's also flowing down to the companies they do business with. And it's about sustainability. And the key is sustainability, diversity, and really, social impact.
Yeah, for sure. Social impact. ESG, environmental, social, and governance, that very, very important. So I was wondering, ESG obviously is this huge topic. It can go in so many directions, but where do ESG directives typically come from? And does the political landscape play a role right now?
It very much has. I think we've even seen it in the past 3 or 4 months that it's played a huge role. We've seen it within the Biden administration. I shared with you just last week an article from Roll Call. Roll Call is the Capitol Hill Wall Street Journal. It is everything about what's happening on Capitol Hill. And they had an article about how most of the lobbying reports included ESG. So Congress is listening. And when Congress is listening, it means that laws are going to be impacted. And it's going to flow down to pretty much everything we all do now. I think we're going to see the whole idea of sustainability and diversity and governance coming down to our own communities.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that we all need to be aware of it. The key is an issue is something, it's not an issue. ESG is not an issue. ESG is going to be a way of life. But it's a way of life that we need, and a way of business that we need to be aware of. And what you're doing today by making this awareness in the tire industry is important because people need to talk about it.
So, Ann, can you give an example from your experience in the aerospace and defense industries and how ESG initiatives are affecting the supply chain? Do you believe, this could happen in the tire industry?
Well, the defense and aerospace industry, they're ultimate customers are big companies. So they are the Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martins, and the U.S. government. So yes, this is affecting them because those companies are quite enthralled with what's happening and what political sense is, what the Biden administration wants. So we're seeing it a lot. I'm actually working with a manufacturer in New Jersey who has decided that he is going to become the poster child for ESG because he knows he's going to have more business because of it. And he's in a hub zone, which is a historically underemployment zone where 70% of his staff live locally. And I said, how do you know that? He goes, they walk to work. And he says, so, environmentally friendly. But he's really turning his business into an ESG poster child because he's a diversity owner and he knows he's going to get more business because of that. So we're seeing in aerospace and defense very much utilize that. As we look at the tire industry, it's different because it's got different customers. But some of those things are still going to flow down because many of the major manufacturers are looking to the tire dealers to be the suppliers to their customers, to the big fleets, to the big companies. And those companies see the tire dealer's truck that has got the big Michelin or Bridgestone or Goodyear sign on it and see them as part of that big company. So, those are all flowing down and companies are being more and more aware of what the customer wants.
Yeah, for sure. So you're saying, just tire industry example, if you have a Goodyear dealer, they sort of wave the Goodyear flag, as we say, that dealer is a direct reflection of what Goodyear, what the company is doing, socially, environmentally, things like that.
Yes, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have the sign and not be part of what the sign stands for. I grew up as a Firestone dealer, and everybody called us the Firestone store. And back when there were lots of recalls, we were still the Firestone store, even though it would have been nice to say, oh no, we're just a dealer. But we were still the Firestone store. And that's what happens. You take the good, the bad, and frankly, with the manufacturers, this is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because all of our major manufacturers in the tire industry are really embracing ESG. So they're doing the right thing. They're not running from it, they're embracing it. And it really means that they need to train their dealers how to be part of that embracement.
So kind of going off of that, what do you think ESG means for tire dealers now? Like you said, with many manufacturers setting ESG goals like that, what does it mean for tire dealers? How will it affect their business?
Well, it shouldn't hurt them. They shouldn't run away. They shouldn't go screaming. It shouldn't hurt them. They need to just look at what ESG means. Okay, it means environment. Now, are they environmentally sound in their own practices? What they do with their waste, how they deal with their energy. Are they energy efficient? Most of them are because it's kind of good business. And then, the social. Does their staff reflect their community? Are they recognizing diversity? Are they recognizing diversity even in their customers and how they treat their customers? And then on governance, most tire dealers are owner-operated, so they don't have shareholding. But it also means how you treat your employees, your labor practices. And tire dealers tend to be pretty good on that. They just need to think about how they are and show that they meet these criteria. Tire dealers are great about community outreach and, T-shirts, Little League team, and all of those things. But you have to think about that. You have to think about all the good things you do and really kind of make a list and demonstrate that you are doing all the right things.
Yeah, for sure. That's such great advice. I know I talked to a tire dealer recently for our May issue, actually, that not only has he's on this quest to become the greenest tire dealer, and his store's very green, environmentally friendly, but also, like you're saying, does that social outreach and diverse hiring and stuff like that. So it really is all encompassing when you're talking about ESG.
Yeah, and you're kind of showing him as the poster child, and he is setting an example, and on the tire associations, the tire magazines, the media, the manufacturers should find these people and show them as examples and show them as this does not hurt your business. It doesn't really cost you money. It brings you better results. It brings you better outcomes to be that sustainable business.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. That's so true. So you kind of touched on this already, but how do you feel ESG fits into a tire dealer's business model?
It really it should be just part of their operation strategy. And just to think about it. And as I said, tire dealers or most businesses tend to do the right thing anyway. And you just think about the fact that you're doing the right thing and make sure that you are seen doing the right thing. Make sure that, when you are disposing something properly, it goes into a bin that actually shows that it's being disposed properly. It's what is seen also makes a difference.
Right, that's so true. Yeah. So you're saying, tire dealers should really allow customers to see that they're doing this?
And have a sign on that nice, clean, lovely drum for waste oil. And where they have their waste tires, make sure it's not the rusted old fence, but, sometimes a little paint and polish goes a long way. I mean, you're doing the right thing, but show it as the right thing. These tires are on their way to becoming turf. A sign. It's the kinds of things. These tires are on their way to becoming energy. These tires are on their way to becoming something else. And in your waiting room, if you look up on our roof, we have solar panels, and even you're supporting the Little League team, have a picture of the Little League team. Our community involvement, putting things on the walls that look good.
Yeah, for sure. I know I'll see on Facebook a lot tire dealers posting different things about their community involvement. And that's just another, example of their own type of ESG from what you're explaining.
Right.
So.
Right. And it's really just thinking about it and demonstrating it, having it as part of their plan. And particularly, when they're talking to their banks. And there was an article I saw in a lending website, commercial lending, for things like tire dealers and distributors, that talked about before you close loans, you're now going to be looking at, are they, environmental sustainability, and do these companies do? I mean, all this is going to be touching everything we do.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems to me that, this issue has really, come to prominence in the last 10 years, but will probably skyrocket there in the next 10 years or even in months. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I'm seeing it skyrocket in the past 4 months of people asking us questions about, where do we go with this? What do you think about this? Can we do a training for our suppliers? Can we do a training for our staff? What does this mean? So it's really taken off. Years ago we were training tire dealers on how to sell to women. I ran those trainings in 1980, and it made a difference in the tire dealers because things change. Prior to that, women really weren't even coming into tire stores. It was their father, husband, brother, and then it was women buying tires, and we had to adapt to questions and being sensitive to what somebody was going to ask and not saying, well, I know best. No, this is what you need to understand so you can make a decision so your car will be safe, your tires will be appropriate. It's all about training.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great example. That's so true. Now, and you were talking about what you're doing now, and I did want to know. I know obviously you work with different companies on ESG, trade, and investment, but now that you're back in the private sector after making such an impact in public policy, do you have plans to return to the tire industry in some capacity?
Well, I never totally left. Very much involved in waste tires, and I'm hoping to get back into the waste tire realm, because I think it's going through a new phase of what do we do with tires. Globally, waste tires have ebbed and flowed on solutions, and logistics is now becoming more expensive. We're looking again back to ESG. Part of it is sustainability. So should you take a waste tire 2,000 miles or 1,000 miles or even 200 miles to have it recycled? Are there community things, or can we do all sorts of things that I think we're going to see in waste tires and in ESG? So my hope is that I will be doing some of that. I'm happy to keep in contact with my friends at TIA. I was a director of TIA, or the old NTDRA, for many years. So I'm happy to be back. It's wonderful talking to you and to other stakeholders in the industry.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely excited as well to have you back in the industry. And I've loved our conversation. I think ESG is so important, especially how it'll trickle down to tire dealers. And I'm hoping we can have this conversation again and keep exploring this topic. But thank you for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.